is going to walk us through the latest package of the Gen AI activities. What are their use cases? What can be implemented? And what are the new things that you can do? All right, so we'll just wait for 2 minutes more so that other people can join in, and then we'll get started. So normally the virtual events that we used to do it on Zoom. This time it is little different. We are trying a new platform, so you might not be able to unmute yourself to ask doubts or you know raise your hand. So if you have any questions, feel free to put that in the chat, and if I think that you might want to discuss it, or if you want to discuss with me or with the speaker, then I can give you the access to unmute yourself and talk as well. So feel free to ask any questions that you have in the chat, and we can take it up during the session or towards the end of the session. So let's give it a couple of minutes and then we'll get started. Sally, I think we can get started. So the session is being recorded as well, right? But I will suggest that
Yep.
everyone stays till the end of the session, so that if you have any doubts, then you can ask. All right, over to you, Sally.
Yep. Thanks, Bud. So today's session, as everyone knows, is based on the Gen AI activities that our UiPath has to offer. So I'll just begin with a quick introduction. So hello everyone, thanks for attending today's session. Myself Saili Amne. So I hold a bachelor's degree in engineering with a specialization in computer science. Currently, I'm working as a designated consultant, RPA developer at Capgemini, where I focus on delivering automation solutions. So my journey with UiPath began during my third year of college when I was introduced to the platform during my internship. It was a new technology, I think, back in 2018, and it sparked my interest in automation. And since then, I've been engaged with UiPath, leveraging its capabilities, and started learning about it more. So, with over 3.5 years of industry experience, I've been able to deliver multiple end-to-end use cases for automation, and I'm passionate about harnessing this technology to drive, transformative results. And of course, this is the first time conducting a session in the community. So here's to a new experience and a new learning. So, going ahead, this is the agenda for today's session. So, we go through a quick introduction of what Gen AI is and how UiPath is offering its capabilities for Gen AI to us. Then, the key features, the requirements, prerequisites, and versioning that are required to implement those Gen AI. Advantages and risks, installation guide, the supported models that we currently have for AI models, exploring the Gen AI activities, and then we'll go on to a quick demo and we'll end the session with FAQs if anyone has any questions. So, starting with a quick introduction, what is Gen AI? So, Gen AI refers to like a category of artificial intelligence systems designed to like generate, analyze content, often based on user inputs or prompts. So, these systems usually use advanced machine learning techniques, particularly deep learning models, to create new original outputs that mimic human responses. So that is a key feature of it. So it aims to like assist and enhance tasks by providing innovative and contextually relevant content. So what is Gen AI activities package in UiPath? So the Gen AI activities package empowers the developers like us and automation engineers to like build intelligent automations that can interpret, analyze, and act upon data in ways that mimic human cognitive abilities. So this is going to increase the efficiency of RPA, and not just that, but it will expand the range of tasks, and we can now more effectively automate everything. So integrating these Gen AI capabilities with UiPath can be a significant enhancement to your automation process, making them more intelligent and adaptive, as you would say, to various business needs. So, going to the key features of Gen AI, so enhanced automation and performance, like we have already talked about it. So, streamlining repetitive tasks and enhancing accuracy through AI-driven automation. Also, you can focus on like scalability, so it can handle more complex tasks and that requires more understanding and processing unstructured or structured data. Compliance and data security, it ensures sensitive information is handled securely through, PI filtering as we see ahead. Multilingual support facilitates operations in global environments with like robust language detection capability. So there is no language barrier anymore. So if you, let's say, receive the input in any other language, so you can now easily translate and carry it ahead for further processing. Then natural language processing, this being one of the main key features. So with regards to like text analytics and language understanding, so this includes activities like sentiment analysis, named entity recognition, or key phrase extraction, language detection, etc. And all of this for the inputs for translation, for restructuring, all you need to do is just provide the prompts or the inputs in human languages. So there is, no particular format. You can just provide the input in NLP, and you'll get the output in NLP as well. The last one being the most important one, integration with AI services without subscription. So basically, access to these ChatGPT models, Azure AI, Google AI models, and without having to worry about the costs and managing subscription individually to these platforms. So as you know, like these AI platforms are now paid, and you have to manage your individual subscriptions if you want to access those particular AI models. So UiPath has taken care of that. All you have to do is take care of the costing on a UiPath level, and you can access and leverage the other AI services without going through the hassle of maintaining an individual subscription to those. So requirements, prerequisites. This is like pretty basic. I think we'll just have a quick walkthrough. So for UiPath Studio, the version for Studio Web and Studio Desktop community. So 2024.4 and newer versions will have access to these packages. The installation, so the latest package that is available for GenAI integration is 1.0.8. The UiPath orchestrator, so of course, this needs to match the versioning of the studio. So again, the same version for orchestrator as well, 2024.4 and above. The services, so as we are, accessing these Azure and Google AI services, so you need to make sure that these are available in your region. So talking about our region, it is definitely available, and you have access to these models that you intend to use. So just make sure you have that. For more details on the regions where it is available, you can refer the documentation for this. Connectivity, of course, the network access and compliance with data policies. So often, you should ensure that the UiPath Studio Orchestrator have a proper network access to the AI service endpoints. So this may also sometimes involve configuring like firewalls or proxy settings in the backend on the organization end to allow outbound connections to the AI services. So make sure you are all set up on that end. Compliance with data policies. So when you're using these external AI services, right? So make sure that they comply with your particular organization policies or data governance policies that are relevant to your industry. Licensing and permission. So ensure that the UiPath license includes access to these GenAI activities. The permissions again are the same. So you need proper permissions to like deploy, manage, and execute workflows involving these AI integrations. Also, previously it was not generally available. So as of July 8th, they have made these AI activities generally available as well. So now they are available in Studio Enterprise version. Going ahead to the advantages and risks. So the reason that I've not mentioned disadvantages here, because I don't see any downside in implementing AI in your current automation workflows. It is of course going to be beneficial, but yes, there are some factors that you need to consider. Some risks, but these risks are always you can mitigate these risks, so they are very much you can handle it on your level. So advantages, of course, enhanced productivity. So it boosts automation by integrating advanced AI driven functionalities, saves time and improves efficiency. So it streamlines your processes, significantly reducing time and increasing operational efficiency. Scalability and flexibility, the platform allows for scaling and adaptation to diverse business needs and workflows. Coming to compliance and data security, it ensures like robust compliance and security measures to protect your sensitive information. Coming to the risks, learning curve and expertise, I think users may face a learning curve, necessitating specialized skills to effectively utilize the platform. But I think learning is a part of our industry, so I think that one you can easily mitigate. Dependency on external AI services, so we rely on third-party AI services for this. So this can introduce potential integration and performance issues, but this is a very rare scenario as these AI models are on a bigger platform level. Cost considerations, yes, implementing Gen AI features can lead to an increased cost. So you need to carefully analyze and carefully budget plan your processes and see what works for you. Performance and accuracy challenges. There can be risks related to accuracy and performance even when you directly access any AI platform. You see a warning sign there that the responses from those AI models are not 100% accurate. So that is a sign. So of course that you have to keep in mind, impacting your overall automation effectiveness. So installation guide, these are the steps, but I would like to practically show you the steps of how you can install it. So I'm just going to exit this presentation screen. So first you have to navigate to your cloud platform. Okay. So in the cloud platform, you have to go here and navigate to integration services. Okay. So one thing to note about this is that you can maintain the connector at a folder level. So if you see here, I have already installed I've already installed this connection. So if you see at the workspace level also, I have this connector at the folder level, which I have just taken as a demo folder. You can see that there is another connection here. So yes, you can maintain this connection at a folder level if that is a concern, and you can manage access of multiple users to that particular folder. So after that, you have to click on the folder in which you want to install that particular connector. So go to these connectors tab and search for GenAI. Okay. So this is the one that you're looking for, UiPath Gen AI activities, okay, under the tag artificial intelligence, and it should be created by UiPath. So this is a official activities connector that they have. So here are just like where all you can use this connection. So these are the connection details as I have already installed it in demo REF folder. So you can see that the status is connected. I have not set any triggers as of now, but if your automation demands, so you can definitely set those triggers up. Going to the activities, so these are the list of all the activities that are present. So as of now, I believe there are like 16 activities present. In today's session, we are just going to cover 7 of these activities. As I wanted to go in detail of each and every activity, and maybe we can have a second session lined up for the rest of the activities. Those activities would be prominently focusing on like context grounding, categorization, image analysis, and everything. For today's session, we will be covering only 7 of them. Yeah. So coming to how you can connect this to your UiPath. So you can see this button, right? Connect to UiPath Gen AI activities. All you have to do is click on this. it will redirect you to an authentication page. So this is another screen that will show up, connect to UiPath GenAI activities. After that, all you have to do is click on connect. As I already have created a connection, I'm going to skip this, but after you click on this connect button, you will be redirected to this page again, and in the connections you will be able to see this. So if you want to, check the connection, edit the connection, you want to add some triggers or something, or even if you want to delete the connection, you can do this from here itself. Make sure that the status is connected, and you see the correct details in your connection. Now after you have this setup, you have to go to your studio. Okay, so in your studio you have to navigate to your manage packages. Yeah, go to your official, and you have to search for your integration services. So let me just show you here, as I have already kept. Yeah, so this is what you need to search for: integration service activities. Okay, so this is the one that you need to install. So if you see, the current latest version is 1.8.0. So make sure that you install the latest version so that you have the latest you know activities in your package. So after that, you just click on save, and you should be able to see this in your project. So let me just expand this. So UiPath integration service dot activities. So this is what you should be able to see with the correct version 1.8.0. Now, after you have this all set up, you need to make sure that you are able to access all of the activities. So where should you check that? So in your activities panel, okay, scroll to the bottom, there should be something called UiPath integration, GenAI activities. Yeah. So if you see this UiPath GenAI activities, okay. So if you expand this, you'll be able to see all of these activities. So this is where these activities are available under UiPath GenAI activities. Now all you have to do is like just drag and drop, and you'll be good to use these activities. So I hope that the installation guide is clear. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. So going ahead to the supported models. So as of now, there are four models that are supported. Actually, there are five. Some time ago, there was a Flash model as well for Google Vertex AI, but I believe that they have rolled back on that. So as of today, they are supporting these four models: GPT 35 Turbo, GPT 4o, as you know, is the latest one, the Gemini 1.0 Pro, and the Gemini 1.0 Pro 001. So just keep this note in mind that the content generation activity uses all available models, both Azure OpenAI and Google Vertex AI, but the prompt-based activities use the Azure OpenAI models. So I'll when we go through each and every activity, I'll explain in detail what they mean by this statement. So yeah, let's quickly dive into exploring the GenAI activities with UiPath. So these are the activities that we are going to cover today, starting with the generate email. So this is basically like you used to create email messages based on specific templates and input data. Input is the email template and data. Output is composed email ready for sending. Then translate activity translates text from one language to another, facilitating multilingual data processing and communication. Input is the text and the target language. Output is, of course, the translated text in the desired language. PII filtering, in order to redact the PII information, that is personally identifiable information, and PHI in documents or some data to ensure privacy and compliance. Input is the text that contains potential PII, and output is the text without the PII. Rewrite activity reformulates text to improve clarity, style, or structure. Whatever input you give, whatever instructions and the way that you want the text to be rewritten, so that will be the input. Input being the original text that you want to rewrite, output being rewritten version of that particular text. The next one would be the language detection. So of course, like whatever input you give, it is going to uh, identify the language. It is going to give you a language code. So the text to analyze is the input, the output is the detected language and its particular code. Coming to the summarized text activity, sometimes you have longer paragraphs that you need to convert into more concise summaries. So the long form text will be converted into a brief summary of original text. Okay, the content generation being the last activity. I think this is one of the important ones. So you can do anything and everything with this particular activity, but I'll tell you why still they have provided the other activities. So this basically creates a text, like you just give an input in a user format, so like NLP, and then you get an output tailored to your specific inputs that you have mentioned. So we'll be going through that as well. So these are the 7 activities that we are going to cover in today's session. So let us start with uh, you know practical on these particular activities. So yeah, starting with the GenAI activities, the first one being the language detection. So if you see here, you get a selection of which, so as I said, right, that you can maintain the connector at a folder level. Okay, so whichever connection you want to use, you can select that connection here in your Apache GenAI activities drop down. Of course, it is a drop down because these connections are like pre-configured. In the settings, you can like add a new connection or manage these connections from here as well from the studio. This is the input, the text that I want to detect the language for. So this again takes only string input. So if you have a file or something, you first need to read the content of that file, and then you need to pass it into the text input file. Uh, then the output is basically the detected language. Okay, so whatever language it is, the input is of, you will get that language as an output here, and the language detection object. So, what is exactly the language detection object? So, basically, this holds the result of language detection process metadata. Like, for example, what the language is, then what is the confidence score, what is the language code. So, there are like different parameters, different data stored in this particular object. So, let's say if I want to access the confidence score or something, maybe to add a condition. So, for that, I would need this language detection object. So, I want to showcase 2 cases for this. So, first one is, of course, that the input is in another language. So, this is a Hindi language. It is expected to, recognize the language for it as Hindi. Coming to the second case, which is input in another language, but in English text. So let's see how the output is. This is still a Hindi language. I have given the input as मैं कौन हूँ, but then I've used English letters, English alphabets, to be specific, to give this input. So let's see how language detection, works for these type of inputs. For logging, what I'm going to do is I've logged the detected language, the confidence score, the detected language again, but this time from the language detection object, and the code for the detected language. So this is how you access the particular metadata from the object. So yeah, you can refer this later in the recording maybe. So I'll just quickly run this file for language detection. Okay. So if you see in the output, right? So case 1 was where I gave the input in Hindi. Yeah. So it correctly recognized it as Hindi. The confidence score was 1. This was the language again, and this is the language code for that particular input. Now, the interesting part is the case 2, okay, where I gave the input. Let me just minimize this. Yeah. Where I gave the input, so the language was Hindi, but the alphabets used were English. So in that case, though, it detected the language as English. The confidence score, the interesting part is this, the confidence score still is 1 in that case. Okay, so this is one point that we need to be careful of when using this particular activity, that when it comes to language detection, this only focuses on the characters. So that is a priority for language detection model. Again, if you remember the point that I mentioned, right, in supported models, that content generation activity would use both the models, but prompt based activities use only Azure OpenAI models. So this is one of those activities. As you can see, there is no drop down present for model selection. So this in the backend is going to use Azure OpenAI models, and this will only focus on the character part in the language detection. So if you have like these type of inputs, make sure that you do your thorough due diligence when using this activity. A similar type of activity is translate. So again, this would be an interesting use case. So for this translate, again, you have the selection of which connection you want to use. Here, there is an additional field, which is the model name. So here you can only use Azure OpenAI models. So 35 and 40, you can make the proper model selection. Then you will get the translate text as an output. The input is again a string. And what language do you want the output to be in? So for now, I've selected English. So case one is pretty straightforward. I would like to focus on case two. Okay. So just like language detection, here also I had given Mac on who, but in English alphabets. Translate also, I'm going to give the same text, Mac on who, but in English alphabets. Now, ideally, as we saw in language detection, if it recognizes this as English, then it should only it is not going to translate. So it will keep this particular input as is. So that is the logic behind it. But if I run this, I want you to see how it works. So yeah, I just run the translate one. Okay. Yeah, but you see, if the case two, the case one is like, me kona hai, it correctly translated to who am I. But the case two that I wanted to focus on, even though I gave it, Hindi input in English alphabets, it correctly translated it to who am I, which is the desired English language. So the reason behind this is that the translate model in the backend, has a deeper understanding of its inputs than the language detection. All language detection is worried about is the characters that it receives. So based on those characters, it is simply going to recognize what language it is. But for translate, it is not just going to focus on the characters, it will also focus on the understanding of the input. So it has a deeper understanding of what input do you provide. So this is a very interesting difference that I came across when I was exploring these particular activities. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that. Also, one more point to add: these kind of inputs are called transliterate inputs. So where the language is one, but you use English alphabets to give that particular input, or it can be vice versa. Basically, one language and another set of alphabets used to pass that in the input. So these transliterate inputs work this way for the current model. So yeah, I think we have covered these two. Next, let's go on to the PII filtering. Let me just any doubts so far in these activities, or should we save all the questions for the end?
Let me quickly check in the chat. Will we? Okay. I don't think there is anything related to this topic, so we can go.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, coming to the PII filtering. So basically, this PII filtering, as I've already mentioned, this is to hide, sensitive information. So let's take an example, like when you directly interact with, let's say, ChatGPT platform, right? There is no middleman between you and the command prompt to filter any sensitive information. So you can easily send out any sensitive information, maybe your phone number or email. And as we all know that these all inputs are being used to train the model backend, as it is an open platform, okay, open AI platform. So you cannot take this risk when it comes to your enterprise industry level, okay, your business. You cannot take that risk. So in order to take care of that, UiPath has given us this PII filtering activity. So what are the parameters of this PII filtering activity? So again, this uses Azure OpenAI model in the backend, as we do not see any drop down to make the model selection. You can select the connection as we previously seen. This is the input that you want to implement the PII filtering on. So for now, I have given a demo input like, hello, my name is Saidi, and I have given my email and my phone number. Okay, so this is just a sample input. Now the language is English because the input that I've given here is in English. Coming to the properties section, the PII PHI category. Now this is a drop down selection. Okay, so you cannot like customize your PII categories. There are a lot of categories already listed in this particular drop down. So all you have to do is just check on that particular the category that you want to hide or remove from your particular input. Now, it is not just like very generic, but if you see for every country also, they have given specific PII categories. So, like for Australia, company number, because the identity number or the passport number or the other driving license or something, every country has its own different format. So they have broken it down to that specific level. So if I just scroll down for India, yeah, so you can see the PAN number, PAN Aadhaar is something that we use on a large scale in our country. So you can see that permanent account number and Aadhaar number and everything. So you have these categories in these drop down. I think this covers most of the sensitive information. So, you can definitely use that. Coming to the confidence score. So basically, this is a very important factor when it comes to PII filtering. So let me tell you why. Whenever this model is going to extract any particular PII information from your given input, every redacted text is going to have a certain confidence score. So what this field is, going to tell that if the confidence score is above this value, only then go ahead and redact it. Otherwise, don't. Okay. So this is what the uh, confidence score, is. The default value is 0.75, but you can accepted confidence score. The redacted text being, whatever information is redacted from this particular input, so that will be stored in this particular variable. And the text analysis object is, the same as a language detection object. It will just have the metadata for this particular redacted text and the input. Okay. So what I'm logging in the output is the initial text and the mask text, and whatever entities were uh, like detected, and what is the confidence score for each of them. So I'll just quickly run it from here.
Sahil, while that is running, we have two
Mhm.
questions in the chat. One is from
Okay.
Vikrant, that are
Mhm.
there options to integrate new models or any custom model?
So, I believe there is a way that you can integrate new AI models or like custom models. Let's say if you have your own organization's LLM, okay, you can do it in the AI center, but you need the proper licensing and it is going to cost you more. So, you need to consider those parameters, but it is possible to integrate your own personal AI model.
Using UiPath ASI. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
And there is one more, that how about data security in this Gen AI? This is from Vithal Kaito.
Yeah. So data security, as we said, like, we are looking for one of these activities. So like, let's say whenever you are sending out a particular input, right, to process to that particular AI model, you can always have this PII filtering as a middleman. So after you gather that input, use this PII filtering, and then you can, go ahead and send that input to that particular AI model for further processing.
All right, yeah, I think that answers your question, Vikrant and Vithal. If you have any follow up questions, please feel free to put it in the chat and we can take it. Thank you, Sai. Let's go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so coming back to this PII filtering, Yeah, so this was the original input that you can see logged here. Okay, this is the text that has been returned to us after reduction. So if you see, this Saili Angne has been replaced by person and a random number. This Gmail account, as in the email ID, has been replaced by email. The phone number, if you see in this format, has been replaced by the phone number. Okay. Now, as I said, right, that the minimum confidence score plays a very important role. So, if you see here, the first entity, that is the name. Okay, so this is the redacted name, that is Sailyane, which was replaced by this value, and the confidence score that was returned for it was 1. But if you see for the email, the confidence score was zero point 0.8, and if you see for the phone number, it was again zero point 0.8. So I just want to increase the confidence score for this, and let's see how it works. So as both the confidence scores for email and phone number were zero point 0.8, I want to change this to 0.85, and now we will see how it works. Okay. Yeah, now you see that since the confidence score, the minimum confidence score that I set was 0.85 and the other two were for zero point 0.8, you can see that only the name has been reducted. Okay, the email and the phone number stays the same. So, when you are providing inputs, you need to like test thoroughly, see what works, see which minimum confidence score works for your particular business case, and then you can implement these particular properties, or if you can have certain conditions in place, that also works. So this is all about the PI filtering. So this basically takes care of all your sensitive information, and it will redact all those information before sending it as an input to another AI endpoint activity. Okay, so going to the next one, which is the summarized text. So let me just open that. Yeah. Again, has this one has the connection that you need to select. Here you have the model. Okay, again only Azure OpenAI models for the summarized text. This is the text that you need to summarize. So for now, I have just taken some random paragraph from the internet. It is about piranhas. So I want the summary to be in just 50 words. Okay, so that is one of the properties or parameters that you can give as an input. So the number of summary words is 50. The summary format, again, it is a drop down list. Okay, so you can just make a selection if you want the summary to be in paragraph or bulleted list or numbered list. For now, I have selected numbered. Creativity. So basically, creativity is in the range of 0 to 2, and the default creativity is zero point 0.5 for this particular activity. What it will return is, of course, the summarized output, which is in a string data type. Detect language for output. So basically, what it means is, if I have set it to true, then it is going to give me the output in the same language. If I select false, then it will ask me to make a selection for a particular language that I want. So we'll like explore these activities as well. Let me just quickly run the happy scenario, and then we'll explore the other ones. Yeah. So if you see the output, you can see that the numbered list is present for that particular input that I had given. Okay. Now let's say I make this as false, and I want the output in Danish. Okay. So I'm just gonna run this one. it's about the characters that maybe I'll try for.
Also, while you are running the bot, Siley, again, we have some questions. There is one question from Prasad. If you can just check the chat, if it's a multiple questions, so if you can just check.
Oh, okay. Let's start.
And then there are more questions afterwards.
How does Yepat parse the input data to these models? Okay, that is a very good question, which I forgot to mention also. So basically, in the backend, right, these activities are making an API call. Okay, so as a regular, API request. So all of these input data, then let's say the properties that we are defining. So all of these are going as a part of this API request. Are these model available by default on UiPath platform? Yes, these models are by default available. Follow-up question: can we have those models deployed on premise? So yes, again, like as I mentioned, you just have to make sure that these models are available in your particular region. Also, you need to make sure that the enterprise version that you follow, sorry, the purchase, has the AI models incorporated in your licensing. So if you have all of those things, yes, you can deploy it on your premise. Is any promoting needed to fine tune the results, or is it unnecessary? So fine tuning the results, there are different properties in place, as we saw, right? Like one of the properties, to take an example, is the creativity factor. So the more you increase the value of that creativity factor, the more risk the AI tool is going to take. So you can control the results based on those factors. Is there any input word limit for summarize activity? No, I don't believe so. Is there a limit on
Both are the
this
same
one question?
questions.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, okay. I think there is some parsing issue, like, this being a different language. So, the input is all in English. Maybe I'll try this one. Okay, let's maybe try doing the creativity factor as well. So this is what I mean by it. So I am working with this on community version. So the properties are also like pretty limited, but yeah, this should give us a complete. Okay. Yeah. So if you see the previous, summarized text was a little more, uh, you know, bigger than this one. This has kept it more concise, but it is more creative. So, so, th- these are the parameters that you can use to basically control your output for that particular activity. Okay. So let's go to the next one. We still have three more activities to cover. So going to the rewrite, this works as the same. So the function is the same. Like, you provide a certain input and you provide instructions on how you want to rewrite that particular input. So this is again one sample paragraph that I have just taken, and I want the model to make it funny and witty, and I just wanted to add a few jokes. Okay, here also you have these properties, total number of words. You can also add a sample here, which I have not done right now, but you can definitely provide a sample. Again, this is a string input only. So if you provide one sample, the AI model will take that into consideration and accordingly provide the output, create the output. The creativity, okay, I've set it to 100. So this is one thing to note. Um, the other activities, right, have a range of creativity from 0 to 2 or 0 to 1. But this rewrite activity has a range from 0 to 2. For a generate email, we'll look going ahead. So I'll just quickly run this as well. Oh, okay. The value is small. Yeah. So in case you give a creativity more than two, right? So that is like the maximum acceptable value, if you can see here. But it got 100 instead. So it gave a request failed with error. So this is basically the bad request error. This happens when you are making an API call. So I think this should answer the previous one also. Let's say I make it as zero point 0.5 only. Yeah. So if you see, it has rewritten that particular input. It has made it witty. It has added a few jokes like people forgetting to do their to-do lists and everything. So this is the it's just that in summarizing text, you can only summarize what has been given to you. But in rewrite, you can also format or instruct the AI model to like rewrite in a certain manner that you expect it to be. Okay. Now another one, going to this generate email. So here also everything is pretty much covered. The total number of words, example, creativity. There is one interesting thing here about the creativity factor, which I will show you. The model name, again, you can select the Azure OpenAI models. The connection, the email content. So what I've said is just like write a sick leave to my manager Mark from myself and include the subject. And I want the style to be witty, and let's say I want it as a plain text for now. Okay, so I'll run this and let's see the output of it. Okay, so if you see this, it has given the correct subject line. Hey Mark, I hope this email finds you well. All of that, and then best regards side. Okay. Now, why is it not that effective? It's because the creativity factor I have mentioned is 0.1, which is close to like less creativity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to HTML. So let's cover two use cases. I want the output to be in HTML, and I'm going to write the creativity as 100. Okay. Uh, just note this one that I've mentioned the creativity as 100. In the previous one, we've seen that the upper limit was 2. So let me run this file. Now, if you see the output, under the weather, I hope this email finds you well. So the output is in HTML format. The interesting thing to notice, it did take creativity 100 as input. Okay, like unlike the previous one where it gave us the API error, for this particular generate email, it takes a creativity value higher. So there is no range as such, is what I'm trying to say for this particular activity. Okay, coming to the content generation. Yeah. So I think this could be one of the questions which I want to address beforehand. That if we have content generation is basically what it is like you are directly giving the input to ChatGPT. That is what content generation is. Now you know that ChatGPT can generate the email, it can rewrite also, it can summarize also. It can detect the language also. So why do we need other activities? So because content generation is a heavier activity than all the others. So because the other activities are specific to a particular use case that you want to use it for. Okay, so content generation only use it when it is a heavier use case, like you need more processing. Because this, when it comes to enterprise level, right? So we'll go into the AI units part later after this. But what I'm trying to say is, when you use content generation, more tokens are going to be utilized, more AI tokens are AI units are going to be utilized. So this activity, all in all, becomes more expensive and heavy computing. Okay, so if your use case can only work with using other, which are like lightweight activities, so please go ahead with those and not use content generation. So coming to the parameters of content generation activity. Of course, this being a heavy activity, there are more parameters to it. These are pretty basic. Here, if you see, there are the Google Vertex AI models also available for content generation. For the prompt, I have just given, like, give me a briefing on GenAI integration with UiPath. Also, this has an inbuilt PII detection. So if you're using content generation, you need not use a different PII filtering activity. There is an inbuilt PII filtering which you can definitely use, and this is a system prompt. So coming to the properties, maximum token. So basically, this is the maximum number of tokens to generate in the completion. So if you say what like tokens are, so those are basically how do you say, like the number of characters. So those are like basically referred to as number of tokens. So the maximum number of token count, that is by default I think 1024, and it the acceptable value is like integer value, so you can mention your maximum number of token counts. It is advised to not keep the maximum token count higher than what the model can take. Okay, so the temperature, like this is again the value of creativity factor, or like the sampling temperature. Like again, the default value for this is 1. Frequency penalty, if you see, like this ranges between I think point minus 2.022. So positive values basically have the new tokens. So what it means is, the frequency penalty focuses on the text. So it has the it decreases the likelihood to repeat the same line, okay, in your output, and the default value for that is 0. The presence penalty is also the same, but it talks about the topic level. So as frequency penalty focuses on the repetition of a particular text, presence penalty focuses on repetition of the topic. Okay, completion choices count, then like this is basically the number of outputs that the model needs to generate. The top p value is like the text by considering only the most likely tokens. So basically, it is about what is the next probable words based on the input. So this deals with that. And stop sequence, like you can define a sequence here and like basically stop generating new content when you hit that sequence. So you can have that. The output of this is just generated text, the mass text, in case you have the PII detection on. And the content generation object, again, it is same like language detection. It is just the metadata for the generated content. So I'm just going to quickly run this and we'll see the output, how it behaves.
In the meantime, Saili, we have one question from Deepika Shah. She's asking that if a business problem needs to use more than one model, that is reduction of PII and summarization as well, then how can we use this, and what is the impact on cost?
Okay. So in the enterprise version, right? So you will be set up with certain AI units. Now the general transaction of AI units is one unit is to be consumed uh, for every request that you make. Okay, so it would still cost you less than using content generation. if that is where the question goes. Okay, so it is better to use both the summarize and the first activity that you mentioned rather than going for content generation. Now the costing for your enterprise will be done on how many AI units you consume. Okay, so like the billing and costing, if like I think that is the what the question is. That will be done based on how many AI units you consume. So that is how you can determine. So analyze like your business use case, and if you can use the lighter activities, please go ahead. It is always going to cost you less than the heavy computational activities. Okay. Um, yeah, coming to the output. So this is the output that is generated by the content generation. Okay, so if you see this one, hello GenAI integration and all of those. Okay, so this is the output that is generated. So I think we were going to cover. Sorry, we have already covered all the seven activities. Let's quickly go through a demo that I've created to understand one use case. So just explain the use case first. Yeah. So the use case is basically a Zostel AI travel agent. Okay. So I am one who loves to travel. Okay. I always keep on going on trips here and there. So mostly, most of my stays are at Zostel. So this is basically a backpacker hostel. Okay, where you can like rent a bed for a day or something like that. Now they provide accommodation at a cheaper level. Okay, what I want is, let's say that this hostel receives an inquiry. Okay, let's say this you can look at it as a new feature that that these guys can implement in their particular website. So what this feature is going to do is it is going to take an inquiry. Let's say my starting point is Mumbai or Thane, and my reaching point is let's say Alleppey, which is in south of India. They have accommodation there. So what if I have a feature in the hostel, website, which will not only like give me the details of the accommodation and everything, but it will also create an itinerary for me. Now, of course, like you being an outsider, you don't know what all things are there to explore. So, what if AI gives you an end-to-end itinerary, including costing, then your itinerary day-wise, including your meal plans, everything, and what all mode of transportation is available, everything. So all you have to do is just go and book uh, whatever the itinerary includes. So I think that would be a very interesting feature to have in the websites of hotels and stays. So this is just one example. So I'll quickly go through the workflow. So what I'm doing is, first I'm reading the email. Okay, so I'm going to the Outlook, I'm reading the email, I'm detecting the language. Now this email inquiry can be in any particular language, right? So for just here I'm detecting the language. If it is in English, okay, no translation is needed. But if it is in, let's say, Hindi, then I need to first translate, because the prompts that I'm giving further down the process are in English. So let's say I'm translating it to English first, okay, and then I'll print log these so that we can track. So this is just one of the sample emails that I have. Again, like this is just for demo purpose. So this can be one of the inquiry. Can you help me plan an itinerary? Origin is Mumbai, destination is Alleppey. Okay. So let me, and this can be like an inquiry in another language. So this is in Hindi. This Utpatti apparently means the origin, and then this is the destination. This inquiry is in Hindi. Okay. So after that, I'm reading the email. I'm going to the Zostel website. Then after that, okay, navigating to the Zostel website, and I'm extracting some value from the website. Now this was not a mandate step, but I wanted to have a example of a data which I want to include in my further processing. Like let's say, even when I'm like rewriting it, or when I'm sending it to content generation to create the itinerary or something. So I just want that data to be an example of a data which is fetched from another endpoint. Okay, and how I'm using that in the prompts. So then I'm going to rewrite that. So I just want to remove, like, show more recommended places from the text. Okay, that I'm capturing. So let me just show you that exhaustive website. So this is basically the text that I'm extracting. Okay, this whole thing, and what I'm telling him is just remove the recommended places from these extracted text, but keep everything as is. Okay, so this is just what it is doing. After that, I am going to send the itinerary email. So in that I'm going to create the use. So here I'm using the content generation. Okay, so because I didn't want to, because there is no activity that would itinerary for me. So I am giving it the prompt that planned a detailed itinerary from origin to destination, include following details. So this is more like what prompt to give to get accurate result. Okay. So after that prompt is given, I am passing the language. So let's say the inquiry was in Hindi. So I need to translate it before sending it. After that, I'm generating the email body. Okay. Before that, I'm rewriting it because like the Zostel people have a particular format, like they have like Zo greetings and everything. So I just wanted that format to be included in the email. So I'm going to rewrite that particular thing. Then I'm going to create the email body, okay, to send out. Then this email body will be in that language, which is like in the respective language in which the inquiry was received. Okay, so this is basically the entire flow and the end-to-end use case. So for now, let's see how this English inquiry works. I'm just going to mark it as unread, and yeah, let me run this whole thing. So now it is opening the Zostel website. Just a second. Click back website. Yeah. Okay, it searches for that destination. It extracted the text from email. Now it extracted from the website, close that website. Now in the backend, it is like rewriting the text, translating it, creating the itinerary using that content generation and everything. So that is happening in the backend. The moment it is done, I will receive a response to this particular email itself in the inbox, and we can see that. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the email inbox. Okay, so if you see, this is a reply to the original inquiry. Okay, so this is the original inquiry that was made. Let me just hide it. Yeah, this was the original inquiry. So in reply to that, I have gotten the detailed itinerary. Okay, greetings from Zoe. We are looking forward to host you. What the destination is. This is the text basically that I had extracted from the website. Okay, and here is the detailed itinerary. So day one, departure from Mumbai. What all flights are there? Approximate costing, the journey time, afternoon, how to go to that particular location. Evening check-in, what are things to do, where to have the dinner. It has also mentioned the restaurant. Okay, the cost of that particular meal. Then day two, what all I can do. Day three itinerary, and in the end, it has given me an approximate costing for the whole trip. Okay, so total estimated cost is like around 20,000. So this is the format that I wanted to be used, so I've rewritten it in that particular format. Okay, so Another inquiry which we saw was in Hindi, right? From Mumbai to Kodaikanal. So this is where I'm traveling to next month. So let's see what itinerary it has given me. So again, it is in Hindi, but yeah. So again, this also replied back in the same language in which the inquiry was. So this was in Hindi. So again, the response was also in Hindi. Okay. So day one, day two, everything the same format, and what is the approximate costing end to end. Okay. So yeah, this was quick demo use case that I wanted to showcase. There are more activities. Maybe we can plan another session to cover those. Today we have covered seven of them. So yeah, let's maybe go to FAQs if any, because I think I'm done presenting everything from my end.
All right, Siley, your voice is breaking a little for me as well. I think so. Maybe you can stop sharing your screen. I think that's yeah. All right, guys. So I hope you learned something new in this session, and there were good questions during the session. Some I answered in the chat itself. So if you still have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat, or I can. We have like some 7 to 8 minutes left for this session. If you want to unmute yourself, just let me know in the chat, and I can do that. Uh, Feedback. Okay, Prasad, you have a feedback. Do you want me to unmute yourself? And in the meantime, there is a question from Deepika. Any challenges or expectations to exceptions to keep in mind? Any best practices, Siley, that you think we should do?
Yeah, I think I tried to cover what are the challenges. Like one of them that we saw in
Hmm.
the translation model or something, like it
Correct.
behaves differently. So you just need to thoroughly understand your use case before using these activities, because at the end it is just mimicking a human response. Like it cannot be accurate 100% all the time. So that itself is, I would say, one of the challenges that you need to keep in mind. But otherwise, I think pretty much other risks are you can easily mitigate them. But yeah, just make sure that you are doing a thorough checking of your
Got it. Yeah, Prasad, go ahead. I think you can unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, on the topic which Vittal has touched upon, the data security, especially for organizations, BFSI from the banking financial world, they are very, very concerned about the AI and the way the data is being processed. So I don't know if it's in the roadmap already with UiPath, that it would be great if activities have an option to classify the data then and there, whether it's internal, confidential, secret, whatever. So that whatever input data is being processed, it gets classified and the data processing becomes more organized. I don't know if it's there in the roadmap, but I think we are still early in the journey.
Correct.
Uh, just a feedback and something to think about
Right,
for our
right. And
community.
I'm pretty sure if we are thinking about it, then UiPath product team is also thinking about it, right? And I believe I had some documentation that talks about the security concerns using this AI model and all of it. I'm not sure where exactly that link is, but we'll see if we can get that and share it somehow.
Yeah, that would be really
Yeah,
helpful. Yeah.
because there is this one link that talks about all the Gen AI things of UiPath, and let me just share that in the chat if you guys can access it. It talks about many different things about the security as well, use cases and all of that. So if something can be useful in this link, maybe you can go to that as well.
also for like categorizing the data, right? So they have introduced one more activity which is categorize. So there itself you can provide the content you want to categorize. So let's say, and the categories like you only can define. So maybe if you have the data categorized and then maybe you use PI filtering, so that could also work. But I'm pretty sure that they will already be working on that part of it.
There is a one question from Ashwini Kumar, that can we utilize MS Copilot from UiPath? Can we utilize that MS Copilot? Maybe Sahil, if you can take that.
Yeah, am I still audible? Okay, yeah.
You are audible.
So yes, you can definitely utilize MS Copilot in conjunction with UiPath to enhance your automation and productivity. So this will give you better
Correct.
understanding, possibility to data like manipulate your data, NLP, enhancing the documentation part, even increasing the user experience and everything. So yes, definitely you can do that.
Fine. I don't see any other questions. Let's give it a minute more. If there are no questions coming in, then I think we can end the call. And also, guys, we have one more session happening tomorrow that is about the Gen AI features in document understanding. We are trying to cover all the latest activities and the modern design experience that comes with it. So I'm just going to quickly share the link of tomorrow's session, and if you can RSVP for that, the timing is going to be the same as today. And yeah, it is again going to be an interesting session where you will learn about the Gen AI features, particularly for document understanding. So we are going to cover that tomorrow. All right. I see no questions. I think that was an amazing session, Sahili. Thank you for sharing all the use cases that you built. And we'll definitely have one more session because, like we just
Yep,
talked
yep.
yesterday, there are more activities
Yeah,
coming in, right? So maybe
definitely.
a 2.0 session of this one. So, yeah, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being super active during the session and interacting and asking amazing questions. I hope to see you all tomorrow as well in the Gen AI session for document understanding. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. Bye. Have a good day.